Welcome back. Welcome to another show. I know it is in a weird limbo time at the moment with F1 on summer break, WSeries technically on summer break. But we got to do our weekly podcast, and this is going to be fun. This one is going to be right now part number 1 of this kind of 2-part series. We're going to look at the 3 first races of the WSeries season, give our driver ratings for those first 3 races, and then give the full analysis when we return back, covering Silverstone, covering France, and Budapest. All 3 of those races will be covered in another separate one because I feel like we have enough content, enough everything to really dive so in deep about these first 3 races that you all will, well, basically it's going to be so much that we're probably going to hit over an hour. Therefore, to make it better, I thought we would slow that down and then we move on next week or so to part number 2 of that and kind of let things stretch out so that we're not just bombarded and cover everything possible before the summer break is over. Remember, the summer break might be till August 25th, but the WSeries don't return until Singapore, which is not until past Monza, Italia, and then it's about a week later after that too. So there's still a while to go. It's past September basically when we return racing for the WSeries, and I'm sure everybody will enjoy that. I'm sure the drivers will love to get back. A lot of drivers are basically either they are taking vacations or not just taking vacations, but already back to work, back to getting acclimated for the next race, which is a very humid, very difficult track circuit in general. And what I mean by that is just the temperature. Singapore, China, or Singapore in general, that's not an easy track. It's not an easy temperature too. Yeah, it's not an easy temperature. It's not, nothing's easy about that. It reminds me a lot of Malaysia in the temperatures. I know that, David Coulthard earlier was talking about how, humid Miami was way back in the first race, and kind of rewatched the first 3 races as well, listened to all the drivers' takes after the races as well. So we have a lot, and I mean a lot to cover, a lot to just get back with and take a trip down memory lane for the first race in Miami for the WSeries. David Coulthard was in the booth with Alex Jakes. Billy Monger happened to be out down on the pits, and Jamie Chadwick, I believe, was able to be in the booth for both races when everything was all set and done with David Coulthard. And David Coulthard, let me tell you about this. I've listened to what he said, and you take it into consideration, but I take his stuff and what he said with a grain of salt most of the time, because it's just, I don't know, it's a driver's perspective and something he seems out of touch. But as we get into the first race, I will tell you why this time I agreed with what he had to say. Because I think the first race of the WSeries was one of the most controversial races that the WSeries have had. Not because they went back racing with a one-lap shootout. I think race director and everybody, they were able to get things going because all they needed was to clear off the track. There's no pit stops in this 30-minute sprint to the finish race. 30 minutes plus a lap sprint to the finish race. So that was a big thing. As we go to Miami, what happened in the qualifying results? Where was everybody placed for the start of the race in the first qualifying session? Well, it was Nerea Marti who had topped the charts with a 156.915. Jamie Chadwick was second. Alice Powell, so that was on your first row, was Nerea Marti, Jamie Chadwick. Second row was Alice Powell, Emma Kimalainen. That was third and fourth. Then after that, you had none other than first two rows. So then Fabian Volv and Jessica Hawkins rounded out that third row. And then the fourth row was Belen Garcia, Sarah Moore, 7th and 8th. So the 9th and 10th was Abby Pulling, Martha Garcia. 11th and 12th was Chloe Chambers and Bikes. 13th, 14th, Abby Eaton, Bruna Tomaselli. 15th, 16th, Emily DeHughes, and Teresa Babakova. Then 17th, 18th, Bianca Bustamante and Juju Noda. So here's the category of kind of what we're thinking and what we're looking at. We're looking at kind of how did the rookies do these first couple of races, and then how did the second-year drivers do in the WSeries, and then top it all off, how did the senior drivers, the veteran drivers do? That's kind of, the criteria of from 1 to 10. That's kind of the rating, 1 being terrible and 10 being, the best that you possibly could. Of course, we right off the bat can say Jamie Chadwick kind of dismissed from this as she was, 10 out of 10 already this season. Undefeated, I know we don't necessarily need to go into that yet, but just, kind of already saying that is kind of big. But moving on, it's just some interesting things that, you really want to think about. Was where did everybody place for the qualifying? Where was everybody on the race grid? Now the race begins very interesting start, as drivers were limited in practice from being able to do any race starts, which after the session ends, a lot of drivers are able to go onto the grid and they can test out their clutch and make sure that everything is correct so that they can go back to the engineer and say, yes, that was a good start. The clutch seems to be working very well and things like that. And if the clutch isn't working well, they could probably fix it. Because there's not a lot of limits, especially in practice, for these cars, or for these teams, basically, to where they don't have to... They can work on their cars up until just about grid time, which is crazy. No parc fermé here. But again, moving on. Had a big time start, like I said. Nerea Marti off of pole position, could not get off the line, stalled on the grid, as well as Alice Powell, 2 drivers not able to get off the grid and starting in prime positions. Like we said, that was Nerea Marti in first place, can't get off the line, and then Alice Powell, third place, so right off of row 2, can't get off the line either. So Kimalainen able to jump her into third, and Nerea Marti able to be jumped by everybody, and Jamie Chadwick takes the lead. Now we had 2 safety cars in this race, though. One was Alice Powell not able to start, and then right off the bat is able to try and get spots back. And that's a big, big word. She tried her dadgum hardest. She tried her hardest to get up into a good, solid spot, given the fact that there were problems with her car at the start, so it was going to be very, very difficult. Well, off of a couple of corners, Alice Powell just runs her car too hard, trying to gain spots, and ends up hitting the wall in a very difficult position. And safety car is deployed. Safety car is deployed for that time, and we all know that it ended up being a red flag later. And Alice Powell even said it on and ESPN's broadcast and WSeries broadcast was able to pick it up, and they said, or she was basically saying, I just wasn't able to get off the line, and yeah, it's just, I'm fine, but it's annoying. That's how she summed it up, really. And that, why I bring that wreck up particularly was because it made it be a red flag. And Alice Powell was able to come over there, talk to Abby Pulling, her mentor, Abby Pulling, Alice Powell being Abby Pulling's mentor. So Alice Powell getting to talk to Abby Pulling, and yeah, they went from there. So it was an interesting talk, a very good talk in my eyes for both of them. As Abby Pulling at that time also had a flat spot on her left front tire. Take that into consideration. You have a flat spot on your left front tire. Not necessarily that it would probably look that bad, but you definitely feel the vibration in your steering, and it would be very annoying to drive with, considering, well, you feel like your tire that flat spot could expand, and then your tire would pop, and you could potentially be a passenger and be out of the race completely with damaged steering and all that other fun stuff too. And your not only race is ruined, but you won't score any points or anything like that. So Abby Pulling, that was what she was worried about on the red flag. It was about 18 or so minutes remaining in the race, and they got like 3 minutes off the clock before a safety car was deployed, and then that so it's just a lot of racing, a lot of everything. And then it's interesting because as the race continued on, a lot of battling, and it was still Jamie Chadwick first. Second place ended up being Emma Kimalainen at the time, and Emma Kimalainen trying to take that lead. Belen Garcia had started 7th, and Martha Garcia had made it all the way up to 3rd. Which that is just crazy, or not even 3rd, but up into that top 5, battling for 3rd too. So there was just a lot of movement throughout this whole race, and it was the W Series first time, FIA's first time to be able to work at Miami. So trying to figure out all the kinks, trying to figure out all the new stuff, the growing pains of W Series we saw right then, of where they didn't switch their camera fast enough to see Alice Powell's wreck. We only caught that on replay. It seemed like there was a lot of blocks on the camera angles in general, and just a couple of things there. And here's where frustration for me kind of kicked in. And not necessarily frustration, but pet peeves of mine came in, not only for the broadcasting standpoint, but one-lane racetracks suck. One-lane race circuits suck. Because then you're not able to make passes on the outside where you could possibly be. You gotta basically be there from the start, running that lane in, working that lane in, I should say. And it really makes for a very difficult racetrack, and people enjoy that, but then you're not going to get a lot of passing. You're going to get racing, but when there's no true strategy, you're not going to get a lot of passing. So that's where bumpers are going to be used, but there's no bumpers on open wheel cars, so they can't really do anything. And we saw that. Again, very late into the race, Emma Kimalainen able to put on a spectacular move against Jamie Chadwick. Jamie Chadwick wasn't able to take the lead back before the safety car that was deployed, and there wasn't really much else in that time besides a lot of passing throughout that midfield and things of that nature. So we move on once again with that safety car. Safety car is brought back in, a one-lap shootout from the FIA, from the race director. We go out, and amazing racing. But Emma Kimmelainen off that restart does one thing wrong, and that goes off her racing line, outbreaks herself, she gets passed. Here's Martha Garcia trying to come onto the podium here. She's in 4th place, and Kimmelainen's not off the podium just yet. And I've watched this replay again now, just today, 5 to 10 times, of just that clip. I still don't understand why the FIA gave Martha Garcia a penalty for something that she did not do. She had picked her lane very much before. What did Emma Kimmelainen do? They're side by side. Martha brakes. She can turn a little bit later because she's on the inside. So like that, you know, here's on Martha off that turn. She doesn't have to turn yet. Emma just runs into her and wrecks herself. The FIA is like, nope, no, we don't see it like that. To this day, I'm still shocked about that penalty and how wrong that was to take that position away from Martha Garcia where she deserved it. Granted, Emma Kimmelainen's car was apparently not great, meaning she had engine issues. Her engine started to cut out, is what she said. But that's going to be a common occurrence, not only this season, but for the next race too. But yeah. So Fabian Volven comes off. This is what happened. Fabian Volven comes off with Abby Eaton. They both wreck out of race number 1. Again, it's still a very controversial penalty from Martha Garcia to me, getting that. And Emma Kimmelainen, her inconsistencies. And because, not to mention, this WSeries is also about, are the drivers improving? Are the drivers that have been here from the start improving? We've seen such a ginormous improvement from Jamie Chadwick. We've seen a huge improvement from Alice Powell. Powell, yes, a little bit inconsistent too, but again, what can you do? She said she had never stalled a car and ends up stalling a car and then tries to pass. That was a circuit that nobody ever had been to. No driver until that weekend had ever been to it. So you can't blame her too much on the whole thing, in my eyes. As even a unbiased as can be, it's going to be a tricky track, and you're going to try to find any grip possible, and you're going to go off the racing line, and if there's no grip there, well, yeah, yes, it's somewhat on you, but at that same time, it's like, yeah. So we move on to the next side of things, and here's a big thing. Yeah, the rookies now, we talk about it. They made some mistakes throughout the race that costed them key points. Key points of this season. They really did. Chloe Chambers right off the bat finishes P11. Gets about a 30-second time penalty. The reason why was because she impeded during the safety car line under safety car conditions. So the FIA did not like that and gave her a penalty. She was by far the highest finishing rookie full-time rookie, I should say, which was Chloe Chambers. It's tough for me to call out Abby Pulling a full-time rookie, because I don't think she's a rookie in this series due to the fact that she's had some experience in the cars the year prior. And with the points that she had scored last year, she would have already had a seat this year no matter what. So that's why I don't call her a rookie. The rookies that haven't had that much experience in a Formula car, any type of Formula car, whether they just have jumped into it, Chloe Chambers was the highest finisher out of them in the Miami race number 1, and that was P11. So we go over to the next side. There were still some shocks of the way that the race is finished. Baitika Visser, we found her in 12th place. Visser all of a sudden, where we expect her to be, that was not a good finish for her in the first race. I'm sure Visser would say the same thing. I would have rather, this is me talking as her. She probably would have said, I would have rather been fighting for points, fighting for a top 5 to a podium. But that was not my race this time. So she ends up finishing in 12th position. And Marta Garcia, after her penalty too, drops her down to 10th. Still a very controversial and interesting penalty that I don't agree with. In that race, right off the bat. Giving every driver, from every race. Marta Garcia, I still think she did very well. That's 8 out of 10 for me easily, even 8.5. The penalty was unjust. But we go on, and that's the way that the points were. So yeah, your finishing order. That was actually not the finishing order. My mistake there. That was still qualifying. The finishing order for race number 1. Jamie Chadwick, Jessica Hawkins, Baitika Visser, Abby Pulling, Bruna Tomaselli, Nydia Martin. That was actually your top 6. Went a little bit fast off that top 5. Jessica Hawkins, the biggest, and Baitika Visser, the biggest benefiters off of the penalty. Abby Pulling ends up getting 4th position. Amazing finish for her to start off that season. She did a great job, I believe, netting her 14 points right off the bat. I'll have to double check that to see in the second race. And then Bruna Tomaselli 5th place, Nydia Marti 6th, and 7th was Belen Garcia. Sarah Moore 8th, Bianca Bustamante 9th. So Chloe Chambers actually finished 14th in the first race. I totally misread the results there. I was still reading the qualifying results. So the best rookie finisher was Bianca Bustamante, who ended up getting points with Emilida Hughes right behind her. Therefore, well, they were already, they had already boosted their rookie stock from being there. Bianca Bustamante automatically invited next year with Juju Noda. Those are 2, to look for next season, to see how much they improve this year and see if they can fight for podiums and much more in 2023 when it comes down to it. So Emilida Hughes, like we said, but Bianca Bustamante getting the final 2 points. Marta Garcia was actually not able to score 1 point due to the penalty in the end, because of how close everybody was too. Same thing with Emma Kimmeline and finishing 15th, not DNF'd, but the last of the ones who could finish the whole race. Jamie Chadwick, Jessica Hawkins, Baitika Visser, Abby Pulling, Bruna Tomaselli. That was your top 5 with Nydia Marti 6th. 7th was Belen Garcia. 8th was Sarah Moore and Bianca Bustamante. 9th and 10th was Emilida Hughes. Both the best finishers out of the rookies, first year rookies to be exact. And then Juju Noda just outside the top 10 and 12th position. And Juju Noda able to gain that experience off of her first race. She had been in Formula 4, may I remind you, in the Danish series before dropping into a Formula 3 car. Still a different race car, but that was, you know, a big thing. That's how everything finished, and really, like I said, I want to talk more about the 3 races and then combine all 3 of them to say, here's what I would say for each driver, what I think their, not necessarily their stock is, but how well they have been this season so far. So yeah, W Series race number 2 was all Jamie Chadwick. Nobody had an answer for Jamie Chadwick. It was very close though in the terms of time of how far everybody was from each other. But, I mean, Jamie was able to start on pole, had the clean air from the start. That is a key thing with these race cars. You have that clean air and you're in front, you're going to take off and be able to in a high position. Alice Powell second, like I said. So big, huge turnaround for Powell, getting that podium. Knew that she could do exactly that. Still was in a good starting spot. I believe it was 4th position for that second race. And the team, give all the credit to the team, the engineers, everybody, for W Series, for getting that car back. Because it was completely, just destroyed off of that right side. Changing out all the suspension, changing out all that side pod basically too, from the front wings. Just them able to get her back out and really have no problems for Alice Powell for that car was insane. You talk about a masterclass, that's a masterclass off of engineering. So a good job from her team and for her to show, I am here, I am marking down that I am in this championship fight now, 2nd place, whatever. I didn't get the full weekend points, but I got 25 points for this week, or not 25, I got 18 points for this weekend, and that's all that you can ask for in the end, trying to be a driver like Jamie Chadwick. Going to be very difficult, but I was there. Nerea Marti, though, gets her podium as well. Both drivers who weren't able to get off the line, it just did not have the complete races that they wanted, were able to bounce back perfectly and show they can fight back from adversity, get their cars back up, and show, hey, we got talent, we're here to stay. This is going to be freaking perfect. Worked out beautifully for both drivers in 2nd and 3rd, standing on the podium together with Jamie Chadwick being in 1st. Again, Chadwick 2 for 2 off that race weekend. Nerea Marti, though, 3rd. Like we said, Belen Garcia just misses out on the podium. And there's going to be one Spaniard, whether or not it was Garcia, or Marti. It ended up being Marti in the end. Kimmeline in 5th place, and we could tell you all about that once again. Her struggles continued. She said she had brake problems. That's really interesting to kind of think about, because if you lose your back end under braking, think you probably put too much rear brake into your car, or you just broke too late. And that's common. You brake too late, you try to turn at the same time that you're braking, you're going to lose the cars. You're going to lose the rear of the car and it's going to spin out. It's just loss of rear grip. It happens constantly when you're trying to do that type of move. It's how I feel. You know, I've done it so many times on iRacing. That's why I say that. But Kimalainen wasn't a podium position, wasn't able to get that podium. She was in a prime position to try and win too because she was in second. Alice Powell at the time was behind her. And forced Emma Kimalainen into a huge mistake, making her inconsistencies for Miami worse. 2 races, 2 times she makes a mistake. This time she scores points. But she loses 8 points. She was easily finishing second. I don't think she wins the race, but she finishes second if she doesn't spin. Visser, though, Abby Pulling finishing 6th, Visser finishing 7th, Moore 8th, Martha Garcia 9th, Chloe Chambers gets her points and finishes 10th. After a very interesting weekend for the American, Fabian Volvend 11th, Emily De Hughes 12th, Bianca Bustamante 14th, or Abby Eden 13th, Bianca Bustamante 14th, Juju Noda 15th, 16th, Teresa Babakova, and Bruno Tomaselli 17th with a DNF from Jessica Hawkins. We go back to what I was saying, and this time Chloe Chambers was the best rookie finisher out of the first year drivers in the second race, grabbing her a point. Bianca Bustamante not having the best result in race number 2, 14th. And same goes for Juju Noda in 15th. But of course, all those drivers just trying to get a feel for the car, just trying to get used to that car too. So it's a big thing for those rookies to be able to come back and get a solid performance. But all in all, I'd say for the rookies, it was a very, very good weekend, very good learning experience for all of them, especially drivers who were just coming out of karts too. That's of course the biggest thing. You got to remember, a couple of those drivers had never been in a Formula open wheel car until this year. So move on. But yeah, that's what it was. That race, there wasn't too much. There was no safety cars in the second race. It was much more tame. Everybody was trying their hardest to be able to battle and not make contact with each other as well. Like we said, there was only contact at the end of the race. One thing that I will say, I did listen back to what every driver said, especially out of the diary room. And some things were tough to swallow, and some things, definitely did get personal in that room, in the pressers afterwards. And really listening to, the drivers who made mistakes, they were able to say, I made a mistake, came back, except for one. One driver that I would say what's the word? I guess I am very critical about, because they've been in the WSeries from the start, since the start, is Emma Kimalainen. I would be the same way to Alice Powell, since she's been here from year one. Jamie Chadwick, all those drivers, Sarah Moore, Jessica Hawkins. If they make mistakes like this, yes, I'm going to call them out. That's Emma Kimalainen here. For the first race, again saying, That incident that scored me no points was not my fault. You're the car on the outside for that. She blames her engine for cutting out, and that led to problems. Probably led to less horsepower, that is true. Therefore, you gotta be smarter with your defending. She didn't defend the inside. Therefore, Martha Garcia was able to get on her inside and brake before her. She was there. It's just, incident number one for Martha. And then incident number two, Martha, you could tell she just broke way too late. And that made her go wide. Or not wide, but that made the back end want to lose control. And Alice Powell said it herself. She tried to avoid that, but Emma was already, when she lost grip, was already going outside, and Alice was trying to pass her on the outside, so she tags the wall, gets damage on her front wing, and has to survive one more lap at Miami. So a very, very difficult race for her. But it was intense. For that second race, Jessica Hawkins not able to get points, and she was the one that was off onto the podium, trying to carry that momentum onto race number 2 to try to get points, wasn't able to. So getting your points paying positions was Jamie Chadwick, Alice Powell, Nadia Marti, Belen Garcia, Emma Kimberlinen, Abby Pulling, Blake Skavitzer, Sarah Moore, Martha Garcia, and Chloe Chambers for your top number 10. Taking a quick little break, looking at the chat. What's up, Real Penguin TD? Thanks for tuning in. Got anything to add on to this, feel free. Chat is always open as always. Yeah, as it says in the title, breaking down the first 3 races of the W Series. And then at the end of the first 3 races, I'll give my take on, well, driver ratings, 1 through 10 be the driver ratings, and yeah, see how that goes. But we move on out of Miami, and pretty interesting race it was. For that race number 2. But we move on to the third race of the W Series, round number 2, race number 3. Weird, oddly, or yeah, they call it round number 2 for some strange reason, but it's race number 3. So round number 3 in my eyes was interesting. That's where we go to Barcelona. Barcelona was interesting. De Catalunya. It had a lot riding on it. Will the Spaniards, all 3 of them, be able to show up? Will they be able to be the top 3 on the podium? Or will it be opposite? Will it be a Brit 1, 2, 3? Possibly. So a lot of things, kind of was kind of what's going to happen, basically. But we'll tell you all where everybody qualified for that, giving you perspective into what happened before the race happened. Jamie Chadwick ends up qualifying on the top spot. So first place for her. Alice Powell was second. That's in your row number 1. Abby Pulling, Bites Kavitzer 3 and 4, row number 2. Emma Kimmerleinen and Belen Garcia round out the third row, 6th and 7th. Sarah Moore and Jessica Hawkins round out the 4th. Or the 3rd, yeah. Martha Garcia, Sarah Moore, 7th and 8th. Jessica Hawkins, Fabian Volvin, 9th and 10th, and then 11th and 12th was Nadia Marti and Bruna Tomaselli. It was going to be a difficult race for those two, especially the ones just outside that top 10. 13th, 14th was Tereza Babakova and Juju Noda. Emily De Hughes and Chloe Chambers for 15th and 16th, and Bianca Bustamante and Abby Eaton 17th and 18th. Abby Eaton having trouble with her car, but her pace was fantastic, phenomenal in practice, so we expected her to make up spots and maybe be able to get at least a point or two. Because, remember, moving up 8 spots in a very difficult, tough racetrack that's more so for MotoGP is going to be interesting. Especially for the second time that a lot of these drivers have been there. The only times that drivers had not been there was Abby Pulling. And that was really about it. Besides a couple of the rookies, like Bianca Bustamante, Chloe Chambers, Abby Eaton had been there, but like Juju Noda, and even Tereza Babakova. So it was exciting to see what was going to take place in this race. But yeah, as we broke down those qualifying times and all that, and where everybody started, now it gives you a little perspective of what was to expect. A lot was for drivers not to be able to pass that much, to have that grip to be able to go past them. So we expected it to be kind of a stagnant race. Not a lot of overtaking, things like that, and not really any safety cars, if one, potentially. But as we get down to this, Jamie Chadwick did end up winning the race, a very close battle for second and third, and even Abby Pulling having a bit of a chance to pass Jamie Chadwick at the end. She looked a couple of times off that final lap, but could not do anything to get by. And Jamie Chadwick wins with Abby Pulling second. Alice Powell did end up getting third. Alice Powell did say she had like one complaint for the car. Was that she was having, well, two actually. She was having a little bit of braking issues, but was able to keep it steady, which is huge. But even Alice said, I had to back off a couple of times because I just could not get past Abby Pulling right when I was on her back gearbox. So, past all that, Emma Kymäläinen ends up finishing 4th. So Kymäläinen has a solid race weekend where she's able to finish her race. So that, of course, would bump up her driver rating in my sense for her to be able to finish it. Beitske Visser, 5th place. A lot of, again, midfield battles. Visser coming back from not having the best weekend in Miami, and this was of course only one race, so it was one race to do well and make sure that you get every ounce out of your freaking race car. Beitske finds herself 5th place finishing, fantastic job, and then Marta Garcia 6th with Belen Garcia, 7th Nadia Marti 8th. Not the best races for all the Spaniards as we would have. I'm sure, Marta Garcia and everybody coming back, they definitely wanted to be up further, but ended up not. Or it wasn't much to say from all three of them. I know they were going to speak. Juju Noda came in and they asked her a couple of questions, and that was of course what us WSeries fans in the first place want. We want to hear more from Juju Noda, what she thought about the race, how she, was able to move forward and learn a lot from her experience. I know it's very difficult for her as Japanese is her first language. But yeah, so not a lot that came from the Spaniards after the race. But Fabian Volvin did end up getting 9th. Sarah Moore, 10th, and 11th was Jessica Hawkins. Hawkins, again, after scoring that podium, failed to score points in the next 2 races. Finished the races, but could not score any points. Was consistent, and she did mention in that diary room in the press conference before or after qualifying, saying qualifying was all my fault. I mean, she definitely made a couple of mistakes. That's why it led her to the back of a bit of, outside that top 10, so she had to gain a lot of spots. And like I said, it's a difficult racetrack to pass. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. She was not able to get past anybody. Bruna Tomaselli, 12th place. Juju Noda, 13th. Emily De Hughes, 14th. Bianca Bustamante, 15th. Abby Eaton, 16th. Teresa Babakova, 17th. And Chloe Chambers does not end up finishing. She was doing a fantastic job. And off the replay, you can see her trying to avoid a car that was already about to wreck, I believe. And avoids it. Gets into this was her second time facing the gravel pit. And this time, unsuccessful to not be able to get out of it, spins her race car and beaches it, sadly. And instead of finishing, I think, just outside the top 10, maybe being able to score another point, she ends up not able to finish in last place. So the best out of the rookie drivers, the best out of the first year of rookie drivers was Juju Noda, finishing in 13th. The rest of the rookie drivers not able to score any points. Again, like I said, I don't count Abby Pulling as a rookie driver, due to the fact that Pulling has raced in the WSeries before a year ago. Therefore, she has experience in this series, knows how everything goes. The drivers who were just picked last year don't have any experience in this series. And yeah. Again, 2 of them coming back already locked in due to the fact that they are a part of the academy team. And that is Bianca Bustamante and Juju Noda. So Juju Noda at this point was still trying to find her first points of the year. Wasn't able to, though. But what a cool thing for her being able to kind of gain spots if possible. So either way, now it gets to the fun part. I think what we've all been waiting for. And this, I think, I'll also clip to just be its own little thing, but this will be combined in the full podcast. Is the driver ratings. And again, I kind of mentioned it off the start of the podcast, but Jamie Chadwick, 10 out of 10, because at this point, 3 races in, she hadn't lost a race yet. And forced other drivers to make mistakes. She stayed on their tails constantly, and even though things looked stressful, she was as cold as ice, in a sense. Ice through her veins, not pressured one bit with being maybe a car 2 to 3 tenths behind her. And yeah, she didn't make a mistake. So at this point, red hot 10 out of 10 for Jamie Chadwick in the driver rating. Abby Pulling, definitely not perfect in the slightest. Had a couple of mistakes had a couple of mistakes in qualifyings. So definitely that's something that she would want to work on more. And I mean, later on in this season so far, we've seen her improve a ton in those practices, or not only in the practices but in qualifying. And yes, Alice Powell, or not Alice Powell, but Abby Pooling, time and time again has been able to improve and improve in qualifying, but there's still so much room for this young driver to grow, which is awesome to see. It makes me so excited that this is what this series is about, is if you're improving, heck yeah, go on. That's what that's all about. If you're not in this series, what more can they do? What more can they do? What more can you do as a driver? What more can that driver do to make sure that they're moving up and not staying flat or falling back down to where they might have been a year or two ago? Abby Pooling at that time, I believe, sat second in the championship. Therefore, 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10, like I said, those two things, growing on that qualifying, maybe growing more on the start, being able to be more focused. I don't know. I'm just naming random things, but definitely room for improvement, but right up there as being very, very impressive. Alice Powell had that stall at the start of Miami, wrecks her car at Miami for the first race, but comes back 2 races and is able to come back. 7.8, close to an 8, really, in my eyes, because of those last 2 races from Miami race 2 to Barcelona in race number 3 of the season. She did talk about how her car she was able to get a good launch, but then her car would bog down after she got that good launch. I don't know if that would be something on the car or something like that, or just on how she would have to get a better start. But that's why I would say 7.8, 7.7 around there for her driver rating. And this is out of 10, of course. Moving down the line to Emma Kymäläinen. Emma Kymäläinen being so inconsistent in the first 2 races, I would say 6.5. A drastic change, but again, hadn't been impressive up until this race where she had everything go right. A solid race for her, even though it was so hot, treacherous, regular Spanish heat in my eyes. It's just the first 2 races. And Kymäläinen able to finish 4th place. Bites Kvisser. Get not the best time in Miami, but was still growing back. I would say 7.2. Martha Garcia in 6th place. Remember, before actually I get to Martha Garcia real quick, not only happy birthday to Martha Garcia, but also remember, I'm only doing the drivers who have been in the series more than a year. The drivers who have not been in this series for more than a year, what I'm going to do is that's going to be a separate rating in itself, because it's rookie. It's comparing a rookie to, vet is very difficult, and so that it's like, how much have they improved this season? That's going to be the rating for these rookie drivers. And of course, for these first 3 races, how well have they come alive? But yeah, Marta Garcia, little inconsistent. 7.6, had some bad luck. Should have been on the podium again in Miami in race number 1. So yeah, 7.9 just basically an 8. 7.9 for Marta Garcia. Belen Garcia coming off of a good couple of races too. I'd say she's right there. 7.6. Fabian Volvend 6.8, almost a 7. Really there because it's she's had struggles throughout this race or throughout this season, especially at that point when I myself and everybody know she's so much better than what she was showing at that time. And all of us wanted her to get back to that form that we saw for Fabian Volvend. So Nerea Marte, I think I already talked about her. 7.0. She was able to get a podium, keep it, all that. Sarah Moore. At this point was struggling. 6.7. Because she could be so much better. She could be at that next level of top 5 to top 2s, in that podium realm. Instead of having to fight for the minimum of at least a point. She's got that skill. She has that talent. We saw it. We saw it last year. We saw it in her rookie debut of the WSeries as well. And I know how much this racer works. Whether it's on the sim or physical training or whatever, the techniques are there. Qualifying, I think, hurts her the most, like a lot of these drivers. So that's one thing to also think about for these drivers is, are they qualifying well? Because if they're not qualifying well, they're not going to be up there. It's just how difficult this series is with the cars and how close they'll be. And if you make a mistake or try and pass, you may potentially get freight change. Jessica Hawkins, 11th place. Bruno Tomaselli, 12th. Jessica Hawkins around in the same spot as, like I said, Sarah Moore, 6.7 as well. I think that's a fair rating after the Spain race. Could have been so much better. She talked about it. Qualifying just hurt her. And yeah, if you're not qualifying well, then Bruna Tomaselli, 12th position, and she was able to start off the season pretty well with a couple of good finishes. So I'd say just passing 7.0. Right on that for Bruna Tomaselli. Jessica Hawkins also had a podium, so let's kind of backtrack and change Jessica Hawkins to 7.1 for being able to have good finishes and good qualifyings for at least Miami, but to come back, that hurts her and brings her back, and that's why I'd say around 7.1. Same thing with Bruna Tomaselli. And that's the end for, well, actually, one more driver. That's Abby Eaton, 16th. Just has been struggling so much this season, whether it's been qualifying or in the race, not being able to get a lot of points. So, with that being said, drops her down 6.4. Not a great rating from Abby Eaton, but 6.4 I think is 100% fair. A lot of work needs to be done. This is only after Spain. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And like I said, we will do the full driver ratings after the last 3 races. I just kind of want to separate these and be able to give us, time and get people talking about this. Again, that's my goal. Get people talking about the W Series. Get more people enjoying of this type of racing. It's a ladder series. It's like people being so intrigued with like the Xfinity series in NASCAR and the Truck series in NASCAR too. That's my goal. But yeah, moving on. Now we just talk about the rookies. The complete rookies that have only been here. This is their first year. That is Juju Noda, Bianca Bustamante, Teresa Babakova, Chloe Chambers, and Emily DeHues. Almost forgot about DeHues. And so this scale goes off of how are they based off of their first race. So again, we go back to Miami's first race. And how were these 4 to 5 drivers? Bianca Bustamante and Emily DeHues ended up scoring a combined 3 points. Bianca Bustamante 9th with 2. And Emily DeHues with 1. They were the front runners after race 1 with that. Chloe Chambers makes a mistake, but it's how did she bounce back from it? Yes, of course, 13th or 14th, that was the final, results after all the penalties had been assessed post-race. Teresa Babakova and Juju Noda, 12th place, looking for that first point. What could she get that first point in race number 2? And we go back into that race number 2. And Chloe Chambers tops everybody with a point. Fabian Volvend was... Yeah, okay. So Emily DeHues was 12th, with Bianca Bustamante 14th, and Juju Noda drops down to 15th. Teresa Babakova was 16th. So that's how race number 2 went. With all that being said, Chloe Chambers, I think, takes the cake for this one because she was able to improve, and this is once again after, well, actually just after 2 races. But for that start, Chloe Chambers takes it. Yes, Chloe Chambers ended up DNFing after in Spain. It's a completely different racetrack. But we fast forward to Spain, and no drivers for rookies were able to score any points. Again, this is discounting Abby pulling from this because of the fact she's raced in W Series last year. She raced in W Series for a couple of races last year, therefore I don't call her a rookie, since she's known the system and especially been around Alice Powell a lot. Therefore, again, we go back. Juju Noda, Emily DeHues, Bianca Bustamante, Teresa Babakova, and Chloe Chambers. Juju Noda this time topped all the rookies, not scoring points, but topped them by finishing positions, holding off all the rookies. Chloe Chambers, how much did she improve? She was able to improve, still learned a lot. I will give her, again, 1 out of 10. How much has she improved from those 3 races? With still so much, so much to learn still. Again, we haven't talked about the other 3 races yet. I would say out of 10, and I think a lot of these won't even be close to 10. 5.7 for her first three races from how much she's improved. Let's say her first race weekend in general from Miami showed how much potential she had. And then coming into Spain showed how much she still needs to learn. So you feel me? As in, she's still learning. She's still got so much room to grow. That's why, in my eyes, 5.7 gives her so much room for those next three races for us to come back and revisit that and say that 5.7 was true at the start, but now look at her go into maybe a 7. Like 7, 70. That's how I see it, personally. She's got so much room to grow. That's just one off of the rookies. 2, Teresa Babakova. Let's talk about her. She's up and down, again, off of Miami's first race. Showed complete potential, had a little bit more luck due to the fact that she due to the fact of how many, the red flag benefited a lot of drivers, and the other safety car benefited her too, with Bianca. Followed Bustamante through and made a lot of spots back. It's going to be a great job for her. That's just one race, though. The race number 2 for De Hughes, was a tough one. Not able to score any points, but 12th place. So, right there. And to be fair, behind Fabian Volvin, Martha Garcia, Chloe Chambers. The group is not too bad to be behind. Showed she still has a lot of potential. And then making it to Barcelona for De Hughes. Just outside the top 10. I think she's kind of been the best balanced racer so far. This one's kind of high for me, but I think this is a fair rating, 6.5 rating for how much, she still has so much more to grow. And we all know she, by the end of the season, should be fighting for top 5s. And we haven't even talked about her next 3 races, which, the next 3 races for all these drivers was Silverstone, France, and none other than Hungary. But again, I thought I'd spread all this stuff out. Helps me, helps us out and helps people talk about it again. So yeah, 6.5 to me for her rating. These are rookie ratings again. So yeah, we talked about Chloe Chambers. We talked about we talked about Emily De Hughes. Yeah, now time to talk about Teresa Babakova. I think this is a perfect segue into it, talking about Babakova. So yeah, she finished 15th. Okay, so actually, Emily De Hughes ended up finishing 14th. Still, yeah, so 6.3. 6.3. I would say, for her. But yeah, moving on. Again, we talked about that as a Babakova. She's going to finish in 17th um, at Spain. But again, we have to also consider these are these drivers' first times at these tracks. But we go back to Miami. And with that doubleheader, how Babakova was able to finish 13th in the first race. Was she able to improve? No, she was not, finishing 16th in race number 2, which was a lot tougher because they didn't have the safety cars. The benefits of that were key. They were very much a big talking point, especially when it came back to this, race in the first time. So with that being said, I'd say Babakova, 5.9, 5.8. Has a long ways to go with Chloe Chambers, but both of them have so much potential. I'm very excited to see what their next, results bring past the 3 races that already happened to, what was it? To, Singapore, Coda, and Mexico with that doubleheader. So technically there's like 4 more races to go, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Which makes sense because we're only at the stop of 6 races with that summer break. Then on to our last 2 rookies. We will save the best. Well, yeah, I'll say it. The best for last. But Bianca Bustamante first, we got to cover. Bianca Bustamante still an interesting driver. Again, background is karting. Gets the chance for WSeries. Gets the Academy drive. And here she is. Out of karting, jumps straight into a Tatis F3 car, basically. And has to work harder than any other driver on the grid, just about. Bianca Bustamante, 14th in the second race, and in the first race she had, again, a top 10 with 9th place. Helped her out. What helped her out? What were the 2 penalties that happened? But it does not matter. That's a 9th place where she earned it. Put herself in that situation and gets it. It was probably going to potentially be 11th, so still would have been the highest scoring rookie. So 9th position for Bustamante. Actually, I take that back. Would not have been the highest scoring rookie for that race, but yeah, 9th and a 14th drops off again in that second race. That's kind of the theme that I'm noticing from these drivers, especially from these rookies, is that second second race, they're finding out they're a little inconsistent. And that's something that, grows with time, where you start to get more and more consistent. Being able to learn, being able to mature, being able to replicate that same thing time and time and time again just takes repetition, just takes time. So very excited to see how these drivers go. Bianca Bustamante, though, in that 3rd race in Spain, A little painful for her. 15th. Finds herself behind Emily DeHuce and Juju Noda. Still a long ways to go coming off of that cart. 5.6. It's around the same where Chloe Chambers is in my eyes. Juju Noda, the youngest on the grid, if I'm not mistaken, or second youngest. With a lot of experience, though, in open wheel racing. Juju Noda, yep, we found her finishing 13th in Spain, and then before that, the first two races, just misses out on points. In both of them with 12th place in the first race, and in the second race ends up finishing in 15th. So 15th position for her in that second race, and the first race ends up being a little bit closer to the points. And moving past that, getting herself back on the horse and back into 13th. So still hadn't scored any points from then on. So a good position. Feeling like a little bit more consistent. Yes, she dropped off. 6.1. Still plenty of room for her to improve. 6.1 even at that point. That's the driver ratings in my eyes. But yeah, let me know if you all agree, if you're watching live. Let me hear your thoughts. If you're not watching live and watching on YouTube, comment down below how you thought those three races for the rookies have gone, and even the three races for everybody else have gone. Love to hear the insight. Maybe you'll be featured on the next episode after this, which will be the second half part of this, which will be the next three races where I break down everything and just all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's going to be all for me from part number 1 of this WSeries breakdown, where we broke down how everything happened, what drivers really were saying, things like that. I know that I've already done that. If you want to hear more separate breakdowns, check the WSeries playlist, where I broke down the Miami Grand Prix, or the Miami Grand Prix for the WSeries. Both races, if I'm not mistaken, and also broke down Barcelona. And I believe both of those are in the playlists. And if you want to continue to listen onward as well, I believe all the breakdowns from all the races this season are in the playlist. If not, I'll make sure to put all of them in. So if that is something for you definitely to check out if you want to. And if you're new and enjoyed this type of content, feel free to hit that subscribe button too. Always helps me out, and it's always fun to just, listen to. Or always fun to make and watch and, listen to all what the drivers have to say and things like that. So thank you all so very much for watching. Again, I'll be back here soon to break down the next 3 races for you all. As, of course, what better way to spend the summer break than to do exactly that, to get you all psyched, to get you all excited and ready for Singapore. Can't wait for that to happen. See you all next time. Hopefully you all had fun listening to this. See you all next time. Adios.